Good afternoon, Scouts. I'm honored to speak to you today, and not just as an active duty Air Force veteran, but as a prior Scout and Scout Master. I love the Scouting organization and grew up not far from here by the Beaumont Scout Reservation. I have fond memories of going to SBARF and spending my summers there at Scout Camp. And Scouting has taken me to many places across this country, as I've hiked in the mountains at Philmont and canoed up into Canada. And when I joined the Air Force and started a whole new adventure, it's taken me to over 65 different countries. One of the funny things that when I first started my training in the Air Force, I went to a U.S. survival school. And while at that school, we hiked through the mountains in eastern Washington state, and they taught us orienteering on a map and compass. And they taught us how to build fires and shelters. And honestly, I was kind of bored because I had learned all of that stuff as a scout in my youth. In the Air Force, I'm an aircrew member, and my position is called a loadmaster, and I fly on a C-17 cargo airplane. And if you don't know what that looks like, if you've ever seen the first Iron Man movie that came out, when Tony Stark first returns to America after he escaped when he was held captive, they show him walking down the back of a large cargo aircraft. That's the cargo aircraft that I work on. Or also, if you've seen the second Transformer movie, when they airdropped Optimus Prime out of the back of a C-17 so that he could defeat the Decepticons. That's what I do in the Air Force. Although I've never airdropped Optimus Prime, I've had the opportunity to deliver all sorts of cargo. Everything from Humvees to large armored vehicles, armored bulldozers, Black Hawk helicopters. I've even carried 40,000 pounds of bombs in one trip. The first time I landed in Baghdad, Iraq, we had over 10,000 pounds of MREs. I'm sure you guys have eaten some of those at your campouts, right? We also had 4,000 pounds of chocolate milk that we delivered to the troops that were stationed there. I've spent a majority of my career on the East Coast close to Washington, D.C. One of my squadron's main missions there was presidential support. So if you think about when you've seen the president giving a speech or he's traveled somewhere and he's in his limousines and the Secret Service have their SUVs with them, those 17s were brought there by, or limousines and Secret Service were brought there by the C-17 cargo aircraft. We even take his helicopter, Marine One, and we fold the blades up and we winch that into the cargo compartment of the aircraft and take it wherever he goes. The cargo compartment can be configured in many different ways, and even with seats throughout the entire aircraft, so that we can carry troops. And I've carried thousands of Army, Marine, and Navy troops in and out of the combat zones. One observation that you'll see as you do this is that the new troops that are leaving for their deployment, their uniforms are all sharp and clean and crisp. Their combat gear is shiny and well prepared. Many have a nervous but eager countenance on them, as this is their first time going into a combat zone. Now, once we land and we offload these new troops, we usually upload troops that are heading home, that have been deployed. And you notice that their uniforms are faded and worn. Their gear is dusty and scuffed. The expressions on their now tanned faces are much hardened from their demands of their deployment. But you can see an anxiousness in their face as they know they're heading home to their family and their loved ones. Not all troops return home in this manner. The C-17 can be configured as a giant ambulance, and it's filled with the wounded that have been burned, lost limbs, and recovering from bullet wounds. And we're able to return these veterans back to the United States so that they can recover and heal. And then there are the fallen. I've had the honor to transport many of the fallen, men and women. And when we do this, we prepare the cargo compartment to be as clean and representative as we can. And as an honor guard brings the fallen to the aircraft, we hold a ceremony inside the plane that's always led by the chaplain. And after the ceremony, I have the opportunity to secure these caskets that are draped with the American flag and return them home to the United States. When we land back here, we hold another ceremony as another honor guard comes and offloads these fallen soldiers so they can return home to where they're from. Many of these soldiers end up in places just like here, Jefferson Barracks, a cemetery dedicated as a resting place for those that gave the ultimate sacrifice to their country, and also for those that have served in the military, like my grandfather, who served this great nation in World War II, and 11 others, friends and family members of mine, who are buried right here at Jefferson Barracks. Let's talk about something I just said here. My grandfather served this great nation. And I think served, and the word service, is a very important word. Sometimes the military is referred to by that word alone, the service. And some people will say he served his country. And you kind of already know what that implies, that he was in some form of the military. There are a few other groups and organizations than the military that understand what service means than do you, the Scouts. You have spent countless hours building trails, gathering food, participating in Eagle Scout projects. You have given up your personal and family time to come here today to serve and honor those in this hollow ground. As you serve today, I want you to take a moment at some point to recognize another similarity that you have with those buried here. On your right sleeve of your uniform is the American flag. The ones you honor today also wore the American flag on the sleeve of their uniform. In closing, I would like to tell you how grateful I am to serve this great country and to serve with you great Scouts. I've had many experiences when I've been in public in uniform and been approached by strangers who have came and shook my hand and simply said, "Thank you for your service." I would like to extend that to all of you here today and say, thank you for your service. Thanks.